Form 7. Juyo and Vaapad. Form 7, better known as Juyo with its variant Vaapad, is arguably the most dangerous and controversial lightsaber form ever developed within the Jedi Order. Nicknamed the Ferocity form, it's the seventh and final of the classical lightsaber styles, and the one most closely tied to risk, corruption, and the dark side. The Jedi High Council treated Juyo as nearly forbidden. Unlike earlier forms which emphasized balance, defense, or precision, Juyo was built around relentless offense, unpredictable strikes, overwhelming pressure, and sheer intensity. It thrived on passion and emotional drive, qualities the Jedi Code warned against. To wield Juyo was to walk a knife's edge between mastery and chaos, always at risk of letting aggression take control. Over time, Jedi Master Mace Windu refined Juyo into a unique variant, Vaapad. Where Juyo relied on raw ferocity, Vaapad was an attempt to channel the user's darker emotions, anger, aggression, even the hatred of their opponent, and transform that energy into focused, controlled strikes. This made Vaapad one of the most dangerous lightsaber disciplines in existence. It gave a Jedi the ability to harness powers that normally fed the Sith, turning an enemy's strength back on them, but it also put the wielder within reach of the very darkness they resisted. Few Jedi ever attempted Vaapad, and fewer still mastered it. Mace Windu himself was one of the only known practitioners, and even among the High Council, his use of the form caused unease. In battle, his mastery of Vaapad, combined with his purple lightsaber, made him one of the deadliest duelists of the Clone Wars. His fight against Darth Sidious remains the clearest example of Vaapad in action, a moment that showed both its incredible effectiveness and the peril of channeling so much raw intensity. Because of this constant risk, Form 7 was never widely taught. It was restricted to only a handful of Jedi Masters under strict conditions, and even then, with caution. For most of the Order, Juyo and Vaapad represented exactly what they feared: a path where passion, violence, and domination could transform Jedi Guardians into aggressors and defenders of peace into warriors consumed by the dark side. Trakata. Trakata is one of the most unusual and controversial lightsaber techniques ever devised. Unlike the 7 classical forms, it isn't officially recognized by the Jedi Order. Instead, it's more of a combat trick, a method built around exploiting the unique on-off nature of a lightsaber. The idea is simple but deadly effective. A duelist can deactivate their blade mid-swing, letting an enemy's strike pass harmlessly through and then reignite it instantly for a counterattack. It also allows for sudden feints, deceptive thrusts, and creative maneuvers that can bypass an opponent's defenses in ways no traditional form could. The Jedi Council condemned Trakata because it ran against their ideals of discipline and honor. Jedi were meant to fight openly, with clarity, not through tricks or deception. To them, Trakata encouraged the kind of cunning and opportunism that could lead down the same path the Sith walked. Still, its practicality couldn't be ignored. In high-stakes duels, especially against Sith, who themselves fought with ruthlessness and deceit, Trakata offered clear advantages. Some Jedi quietly experimented with it, though never openly. On the other hand, the Sith had no such reservations. Deception was a natural part of their philosophy, and Trakata fit seamlessly into their arsenal. The forbidden status of Trakata highlights a larger tension within Jedi teachings. Is survival and victory enough to justify bending the rules? For the Council, the answer was no. To practice Trakata was to compromise integrity for an edge in combat. But for those who used it, the technique proved that even the lightsaber, the most elegant weapon in the galaxy, could serve not only defense, but deception as well. Jarkai. Jarkai, more commonly known as dual wielding, is the practice of fighting with 2 lightsabers at once. It isn't one of the 7 classical forms, but rather an advanced technique with roots in the ancient martial traditions of Atresia. When adapted to lightsabers, Jarkai often paired a standard blade in one hand with a shorter shoto in the other, creating a style that emphasized speed, versatility, and constant offense. In combat, Jarkai offered major advantages. A skilled practitioner could overwhelm an opponent with a barrage of strikes, attack, and defend simultaneously, or cover multiple angles at once. The extra blade also allowed for creative strategies, one saber pinning down an enemy's guard, while the other delivered the finishing blow. Despite these benefits, the Jedi Council discouraged its use. The first concern was its inherently aggressive nature. 2 blades encourage constant forward momentum and offensive pressure, which risked pulling a Jedi into recklessness. The second was the sheer mental strain. Jarkai demanded immense coordination and focus, often leaving little room for the deep, calm connection to the Force that Jedi were supposed to maintain in battle. In the eyes of the Council, dual wielding turned lightsaber combat into spectacle and raw aggression, rather than disciplined mastery. Even so, some Jedi became famous for their skill with Jar Kai. Ahsoka Tano is the most iconic example, wielding her standard saber and shodo with remarkable effectiveness during the Clone Wars. In wartime especially, many Jedi found its tactical advantages too useful to ignore. The Sith, however, embraced Jar Kai far more readily. For warriors who valued aggression and dominance, dual sabers were a natural fit. Legends describes many Sith duelists who used Jar Kai to overwhelm Jedi defenders with sheer offensive momentum. Ultimately, Jar Kai wasn't forbidden because it didn't work. It was forbidden because of what it represented. To the Jedi who valued restraint and harmony, dual wielding symbolized excess, too much focus on combat, too much aggression, and too much reliance on martial skill over balance in the Force. Telekinetic lightsaber combat. Telekinetic lightsaber combat is one of the most unorthodox and most forbidden techniques in Star Wars. Instead of holding a blade, a Force user suspends one or more lightsabers in the air, controlling them entirely through the Force. In theory, this allows a practitioner to strike from multiple angles at once, surround an opponent, or even fight while focusing on other tasks. The Jedi Council banned the practice for two main reasons. First, it breaks the fundamental philosophy of lightsaber combat. A saber is meant to be an extension of the Jedi's body, a reflection of their discipline and spirit. Casting it into the air turns it into a detached tool, prioritizing domination over harmony. Second, it's extremely dangerous. Controlling a single floating blade requires intense focus. Managing multiple sabers multiplies the risk. A momentary lapse could injure allies or even the wielder themselves. Because of its danger and philosophical implications, telekinetic combat was far more common among Sith and dark-side cults than among Jedi. Sith saw it as a display of power and control. Legends describe Darth Traya, a Sith Lord of the Old Republic era, using this technique to wield 3 lightsabers at once, surrounding her enemies in a lethal storm while remaining untouched herself. For the Jedi, however, the technique was heretical. It represented the ultimate perversion of what a lightsaber should be, not a weapon of domination, but a personal, disciplined extension of the Force. To hand over control of the saber to telekinesis alone was to abandon the humility, skill, and connection the Jedi held sacred. As a result, telekinetic lightsaber combat became one of the most heavily restricted techniques in Jedi teachings. It wasn't just impractical, it was a philosophical violation, embodying the very principles of the dark side: control, dominance, and separation from the natural harmony of the Force. Dark side Shien/Djem So. Form 5, known as Shien, and its variant Djem So, was originally created by the Jedi to handle blaster-wielding enemies. It's a practical form. Shien focuses on redirecting blaster bolts with precise angles and wide sweeps, while Djem So emphasizes heavy counterattacks and powerful strikes to turn an opponent's strength against them. But a corrupted dark side version of this form became one of the most dangerous and controversial lightsaber approaches. When twisted by anger or ambition, Shien and Djem So transformed from defensive technique into pure domination. Counterattacks became relentless offense, and the line between disciplined defense and aggressive tyranny disappeared. The danger lies in mindset. Jedi who embraced this dark variant often fell into overconfidence, relying on raw power to overpower foes instead of seeking harmony with the Force. Instead of using their blade as a shield, they wielded it like a hammer, imposing their will on others. This is why dark side users favored the form. It allowed them to dominate opponents with overwhelming force. Darth Vader is one of the most infamous masters of Djem So. His immense physical strength, combined with the form's heavy strikes and counterattacks, made him nearly unstoppable. He exemplifies why the Jedi considered this dark approach forbidden. It turned defense into aggression and discipline into domination. For the Jedi Order, the forbidden aspect of dark-side Shien and Djem So was clear. It encouraged arrogance, anger, and attachment to power over harmony. While the disciplined form of Form 5 remained part of Jedi training, its corrupted variant was a cautionary tale, a reminder that even a form designed for protection could be twisted into a weapon of oppression.